Welcome to the Oopsie Daisy Hop. It's put on by Peg Robinson, and what we're doing is we are doing a project that we have stumbled upon, or um, we make a mess and clean it up, or something that helps people to learn something quick and new. And so this is a method that I use for making a lot of cards, and I call it Oopsie Daisy because I kind of stumbled upon it. I'm sure it's all over the internet, but that's how it goes. So the first thing I did is I chose 3 different blues in the Dylusions ink sprays. I used Calypso Teal, London Blue, and After Midnight. Then I chose 3 stencils. This one is Stencil Girl. The first one I used is a Stencil 1, and the last one I used is a Prima stencil. And so it doesn't really matter what stencil you use or what colors you use, but if you're using colors that aren't in the same color palette, you do need to dry it in between spraying your different colors, or you're just going to make mud for color-wise. So then I make sure my page is totally dry, and I pick a stamp set, any stamp set, doesn't really matter. This time I'm picking Best Birds from Stampin' Up. It was in their most recent catalog. I don't know if it's in their current one, but it was in the one from 2016. And I'm just going to stamp the birds randomly all over the place. I'm going to put them all upright in the same fashion, so they're all facing the same direction. Not necessarily the same direction, but so that their feet are all in the same direction. And then I'm going to grab other things from that same stamp set. This one luckily has a bit of a mesh grid, or like a burlap kind of texture stamp to it. And it's got some flowers, and it's got a happy birthday greeting. So I'm going to use those elements in this card, and that's why I picked this one stamp set, is so that I could use all the different elements from the same stamp set and don't have to go digging through anywhere else to find what I want. So I'm stamping the birds, I'm stamping the burlap kind of look, and I'll go through and stamp the flowers. And I'm using StazOn ink because I wanted something that would be fast drying, and I wanted something that would be color fast, and I wanted it to be waterproof as well. So StazOn Black does that perfectly for me. It means I almost always use StazOn Black. Who are we kidding? But in this one it works out really well because I'm going to be using my watercolor brush over the top of this, and I want the image to stay in place while I make the colors fluid within the image. So I am just going to fill this page, and I'm going to be cutting it up. So I am making sure that all 4 quadrants of the page are nice and full with the birds, and that so that every card that I cut out of this will have some flowers, and it will have some birds, and it will have some of that burlap kind of texture to it. So this hop is put on by Peg Robinson, and she brought us all together through the Creative Arts Collaboration group, which is a group of YouTube artists that are in together on Facebook so that we can support each other and our art and spread the word about all these fantastic ideas and everything that are out there. This hop is based on Oopsie Daisy, or like Oopsie Daisy is something you say when a child falls or something. You go, oh, Oopsie Daisies, and you help them get back up. So this is kind of a stumbled upon kind of adventure, so to speak. And I use this technique a lot in a lot of my art journals and stuff, especially when I do want to do something simple that's colorful. I just kind of spray the page real quick and away we go. All you have to do is make sure that you have a water-soluble ink, and make sure that you have for the spray, and make sure that you have a stencil or 2. You can even do it in solid sprays of color, and then a couple stamps in order to have an image to fill in. And then the water barrel brush is really helpful, but you could just dip a regular brush in water as well if you wanted to. So if you follow through and want to see this hop, you can go into my description box and you can find the next video in the hop. And you just keep following through the description boxes to find out what everybody created for this Oopsie Daisy Hop. I hope that you learned a new technique, or maybe I reminded you of some technique that you love, and that I will see more of this throughout a lot of the projects that are posted online. I'm going to take this page and I'm going to cut it up and make 4 cards out of it. But this is the type of technique that you could use in art journaling. You can use it in making ATCs, like artist trading cards, and all sorts of gift wrap you can use it for. I've used it to create cards for my children to play with, and so on. Usually I like to use the watercolor paper because it holds up nicely, but I've also used just plain white cardstock for this as well, and it worked out just fine. The absorption of the sprays is a little bit different when you use watercolor paper. So now I'm just cutting it down to card size, and the card size I'm using is half of a 8.5 by 11. So the size I'm cutting this down to would normally be 4.25 by 5.5, but I'm taking an additional half an inch off of that so that I have a border. So it's going to be 3 3/4 by 5. Don't make me math, it's late at night. And then I just used my scrapbooking tape runner in order to glue it all on there nice and solidly, nice and firmly. Now I'm cutting these strips into 1 inch wide strips so that I can put a greeting onto the cards. And I looked through my bin and I'm pretty low on when it comes to birthday cards. So I'm going to use these as birthday cards. And that, luckily that greeting comes in the stamp set. Pull that greeting out, grab my StazOn Black once again, and away I go. This time I want the image to be nice and clear and crisp, so I have taken a piece of Fun Foam, and I'm using that so that I have a little bit of a push down surface when I do this stamping, and that creates nice crisp images. Kind of improvising because the last one I cut out had a big blob of blue on it that I didn't want. And I'm going to cut them into flags. I could have just taken a square punch and punched it, stuck it in the corner and punched it, but I was just, using the simplest of things. And there I go. Now I'll just grab my tape runner once again. Well, I guess I could finish putting the cards on there. So if you notice, I used 2 different color of backgrounds. In one of them, or 2 of them, I used a white card, and on 2 of them I used blue cards. It doesn't really matter. I like to sometimes use different kinds of card bases. I've got a big box full of pre-cut card bases, and a lot of them are just on old cardstock that I wasn't going to use anymore, or on white cardstock that I specifically bought for card bases, or some of my other ones you can buy box sets of card bases, that just at the Michaels or other crafting stores. You can also buy the cheap ones at the dollar store and use them so they create a little bit of a background. And it can say anything on it. It could be, an invitation or a birthday invitation, and when you cover it up with a big panel like this, all you see is what's around the edge. So sometimes I will look at that as well, at just the edges of a card, and see if I can use those as card bases. So here I'm just going around with my water barrel brush, putting a little bit of a border on. I probably should have done that before I glued them on. Another way to do this would have been to use my StazOn Black to create a nice defined border as well. So then my cards are done. All I've got left to do is to sign the backs of them that it was my work and what year I created the cards in, and I can start handing them out. Here are the close-ups of my bird cards. Thanks for joining us for the Oopsie Daisy Hop put on by Peg Robinson, and I hope you join us and follow through and check out what everyone else is making and have a little bit of Oopsie Daisies of your own. Happy crafting!